Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Mad Max, starring Mel Gibson, Joanne Samuel, Hugh Keenes Burns, Steve Bisley, and Tim Burns, directed by George Miller. Now, before I get into this review, welcome to the Mad Max series. I've seen these movies once before in my life, but I've seen Fury Road many times, and that's where we're going to get introduced to the movie that's being made called Furiosa, the prequel story, which is part of the saga. So I figured I might as well add this to my series. So I've seen these movies once or twice in my life. Well, Fury Road with an exception. And what do I think of them? Well, you're about to find out. Let's get into this movie. The film is set in the near future of a bleak dystopian in improvised Australia, as the main force patrol, or MFP for short, as it is called by the Bronx, by their enemies, and a MFP police officer named Max Rakatansky, played by Mel Gibson, as he tries to stop one of the motorcycle gang members, Crawford Montazano. I don't know if I'm saying that right, or Knight Rider as he's nicknamed, as he gets away from police custody by killing an officer and stealing his vehicle. And the chase sequence from the start of the movie is to around 10 minutes into the movie is pretty badass, as Knight Rider tries to get away like a bat out of hell, as he crashes and briefly dies, I'll say. And director George Miller does a good job at making action sequences look convincing, as he films them for the longest time. And I like Max in this movie as well as his family, as this might be one of Mel Gibson's better performances, but maybe not his best performance, in my opinion. But it was pretty good. Max's wife, Jessie, played by Joanne Samuel, and his son, as I was led to believe, anyways. His family live with Max while he goes to work with his fellow officers, Jim Goose, played by Steve Bisley, as it was reminding me of Top Gun, and he learns about Knight Rider's death as word comes out to Max. But his captain, Knight Rider's gang leader, Toe Cutter, played by Hugh Keenes Burns, is going after Max, and the gang hears about Max with Toe Cutter as Bubba and Johnny the Boy, played by Tim Burns, act like a bunch of crazy motherfuckers as they go after a couple in a car with their motorcycles, as they murder the man and keep the woman unharmed. And this is one of the great car movies, along with Fast Five and Ford versus Ferrari, being the best, as this series might go on my top three car movies, in my opinion. Max and Jim find the woman frightened while one of the gang members is being arrested by Max, and they take the gang member into custody, and the officers are told to let the gang member go, and Jim acts crazy about it and wants him to keep him into custody. And the score was a bit dramatic in this scene, but come on, this is a revenge movie starring Mel Gibson, as that won't come till later. As there's so many of them out there, it became cliche after this movie, as it works the best here. Jim goes to work and gets injured by a motorcycle crash, and borrows a car for one day, and gets killed by the motorcycle gang, let me rephrase that, as they throw something at the window and blows him up with the lighter, after Toe Cutter gets a smoke for the revenge of the Knight Rider, and Max sees he's been burned, and the eyes on Mel Gibson was completely shocked, and I was liking his facial expressions in that scene, and I always thought Australia was all water. Maybe I'm thinking of Sydney too much, but I don't know. But after viewing this movie, it's not, and the score was at times intense and dramatic. Max gets home to Jessie after seeing Jim's burned up body, and decides to quit the MFP, and tells the captain, who happens to be Fifth, and I get the reasoning on why he wants to quit, as he's scared to death like most people are. And Max, Jessie, and their little boy get a puppy and have a picnic as a romantic getaway. And I really like the romantic picnic between Max and Jessie, and she goes to a town for shopping with the little boy, while Max is getting a tire fixed up, and a few of the gang members harass Jessie until she knees one of them in the nuts. And they try to capture her and gets Max to go with her, and this action scene was well done by director George Miller. The gang look for Max and his family as they leave a chain in the hand of the Knight Rider, flipping Max off, and they go north to live in a nice, quiet place to be a family. And they live near a beach where Jessie walks to, and when she's finished in the water, Doggy hears something. I don't know the dog's name off the top of my head. Suspicious. And Doggy gets killed off screen, but we hear it cries. We hear its cries as the gang members follow Jessie back home. And despite it was off screen, I felt so bad for the doggy for its death. And a big man following Jessie home comes with Max, and while she gets help from her neighbor named May, and tries to find the little boy Sprog, as that's his name, came up so late in the movie, and the gang members have Sprog while Jessie is encountered until May comes up with a gun, and Max and the big man hear the gunshot, and May traps the gang members and goes with Jessie to their car, and it does eventually get smoked, and May tries to shoot the gang members while Jessie runs away, and Sprog and the gang comes up to them and kills them in the middle of the highway. And he screams at the heavens, which is done so many times in the other movies. And Max wants vengeance against the fucking gang, and that killed his family. And remember, this and the Road Warrior and Fury Road, as well as the anticipated Furiosa, are R-rated movies, as the third film, Thunderdome, is a PG-13 rated movie. But I'll get there when I get there. Max goes after the gang as well as the toe cutter, and starts with their mechanic, and a few gang members go on their motorcycles and steal some oil from a truck until Max catches up to them and kills every single last motherfucker in the gang, including Johnny the Boy and the toe cutter, I'm sorry, I should have said it better. And this climax was awesome, and this is the movie where the action cliche works better than in other movies, in my opinion. Now it's time for my rating. I'll give this movie a 8.3 out of 10. Probably on my top 3 car movies, in my opinion, and this is going there with Fast 5 and Ford vs. Ferrari, and this is one of Mel Gibson's better performances, as it might not be his best, but it's a good performance, in my opinion. Director George Miller does a good job with action sequences in this movie, as well as shooting them and making Australia look deserted. And I always thought it would look more like Sydney, Australia, with a bunch of water in my mind. And the revenge plot does get cliche after this movie, as so many movies copy it, as this does it the best in my opinion. The score can be dramatic at times, but it pulls off the movie correctly. And I really like the way how George Miller shoots the action sequences, as this is a solid recommendation, as this was a fun movie from start to finish for a car movie like Fast 5 and Ford vs. Ferrari, but it's, in my opinion, as good as those two films, maybe better, as I remember the next movie as well as the fourth movie being the best ones, but I'll get there when I get there. And it might go down and up, and I haven't seen Furiosa yet, and I haven't gotten to her yet, and we'll see who she is by part 4 for now. This was a great movie, and have fun with it. Solid recommendation. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. And until then, I can run, but I can't hide.